All right, we got the highly talented Andy McGuire with us, University of Texas alum, nationally recognized baseball player, and Blue Jays organization. How we doing today, Andy?
Good brother. You forgot to mention lifelong friend of Andy Boone.
That's a fact. Lifelong friend, known you for a long time, man. Lucky to call you a friend. But yeah, just to jump right into it, I think the coolest thing about your story is I remember when we were like 5, 6 years old, you had your room painted, Texas colors. Like you knew what you wanted from the beginning. And I think that was like the coolest part about your story. Like we're talking like what, 7, 8 years old, you knew?
Yeah, I think I don't really know how that came about, to be honest, but I do know that I had some like early fascination with Texas and the colors, right? The Longhorn logo is one of the best out there. The color orange was kind of my favorite color. And then like you would think that it would have been passed down from family or something. But it wasn't. And like you obviously remember this, but I was a swimmer at that time. Like my summers were spent in the pool and on the baseball field. And I actually went to a swim camp at Texas when I was like 10 or 11. And that was kind of the catalyst where I was like, one, I definitely don't want to swim in college. And two, I definitely want to come to this school. Let me reframe my mind toward focusing on baseball and trying to achieve that goal. So that was kind of like, but yeah, it started at a very early age. And you definitely saw a lot of the burnt orange
Yeah.
and orange stuff that I had around.
Nah, dude, you're on it, man. I mean, not many kids at that age know like this is what I want and I'm gonna get it. And you freaking did. And I think that is like really cool. So Andy went to Madison, nationally recognized player, played for Team USA U18, and then went on to Texas. So what was it like just being a nationally recognized high school baseball player and stepping on to the campus of Texas with all those expectations? Was that kind of overwhelming or did you like it?
Yeah, I think at the time I didn't really know. It's easier now to look back and understand where I was at, like mentally, physically, in my baseball knowledge, right? All those things. It's a lot easier to look back on and be like, oh wow, it was overwhelming, or it I was ready in certain aspects, or and kind of like dissect it. But I just thinking back to when I was 18 years old and like the recruiting process and that stuff all happened early for me. So I look at it in terms of like I knew where I wanted to go. I was able to achieve that through hard work and a lot of honestly like God-given talent that kind of allowed me to make Team USA, to achieve most of my early on accomplishments, I would say. And then like I was joined by, and growing up in Northern Virginia, the sports scene is great. The baseball in particular scene is fantastic. I mean, when you look at what Madison baseball it has done even before I was there, while we were there, and now it's pretty dominant. And the culture is good in preparation for college. I was like the first guy to go to Texas from that area. So I think it was a totally different, not only change in environment and atmosphere, but like I'm walking into one of the premier uh, baseball programs to ever exist, right? And I was very proud of that, and mentally I was prepared for it. But like my recruiting class was number one or two in the country, so the cream of the crop from every single, not just like around the country, but all the big Texas high schools, which it's baseball and football in the state of Texas 24/7. So like I walk in thinking, this baseball thing that I've always done and always been given the ability to do came a little bit easier for me, right? I worked very hard to get to that point. I don't want to overshadow that. Um, because I did and I cared, but then I got to school and I don't think I was as maybe committed to like understanding the game at a deeper level, right? It was just see ball, hit ball, kind of have an intuition of where to be on the field and want to win, right? And be a good teammate. And those were the things that I possessed, that I came in with. And then I was pretty much welcomed with like, I think I hit like 100 in my freshman year, struggled immensely and found my way out of the lineup, but that's a whole nother story. So I would say like, going into it, I felt prepared because I was playing high level baseball, had faced good pitching, and I think had the physical ability. I think mentally I wasn't fully where I could have been or where I ended up getting to toward the end of my time at Texas.
Right. And I think you hinted at two important things.
Things.
One being
One
that
being
you're
that
at the
you're
pinnacle
at the
of
pinnacle of
success,
success.
and that is obviously overwhelming. You're at the cream of the crop. Did it ever feel like it was a little overwhelming, or did you like being around the best of the best?
Yeah, I think at that point I had played with such highly talented players in like the summer ball circuit, Team USA. So playing alongside guys that were just as good, if not better than me in areas was fun, right? And a good challenge, right? Because you're competing for positions, you're competing for stats, you're competing in all different ways. And like the type of player that ends up going to the University of Texas is a specific type of person that wants to get better and wants to win. That's who they recruit, and they still do that today. So I think I credit a lot of it to the guys that I came in with. Like some of them are still my best friends today. We talk weekly, right? And so like I was fortunate enough, this is definitely not always the case, to enter into college in what could have been a way more overwhelming situation with an insanely great just group of human beings, right? Off the field. So we spent so much time building our relationships, doing a lot of like extracurricular activities because, you know, you're on the field enough, right? We're in Austin, Texas. We're going out. We're doing Bible studies. Like it was a group of guys that for someone from Virginia to come in to the 40 acres was like probably the best possible group of guys. So I would say I never felt overwhelmed until I looked at my stats at the end of the freshman year. I'm like, am I good enough to be here? I don't know.
Yeah. And not to jump forward in your story, but like knowing what you know and seeing what you've seen in your story, you ended up getting the last say coming back. But how difficult was it when you were said, "Hey, look, we're gonna look at other options," knowing how good you are, but like obviously players go in slumps. It's baseball. It's like the biggest slump sport along with golf. Like that just is the reality of it. How big of a wake up call was that for you?
It was a big one. I'm glad you asked because I'm very passionate about that topic. Just of it's not a baseball problem and it's not a me problem. It's an athlete problem in general, right? Just educating from a young age on your identity, no matter what any coach or parent or friend or stat line tells you, your identity is never in the ball that you throw or the race that you run or how many tackles you have. It's not wrapped up in the sport, and it's really hard to understand that at a young age because it's all you do and you spend all your time and energy in this. And like, how can I be better? How can I be better? How can I be better? And you get rewarded and you get scholarships and you win games and it's fun, and people know you as like, you're Andy Boone, the football player. Like you don't want to run into that guy in an open hole, right? He's going to lay you out. And for me, it was like, oh, that's the baseball player, right? And you don't really think about it until you get away from the game and you're kind of like, well, shit, I don't know who I am anymore because I don't have a ball in my hand and I don't have a structured schedule that I've always had and something to kind of chase toward. So that was super real for me. But again, that is for anyone who hears this who is playing currently or not sure how to figure out what to do next, or maybe they've been out of the sport for a while and they feel like um, they settled for something that they didn't really want to do. I would just encourage any athlete is gifted a skill set in order to be successful at any level. You have an intangible skill set that is very, very sought after in the corporate world, in the real world, so to speak, right? Like the ability to handle failure, the ability to make adjustments, the ability to be around and work cohesively with people of all these different backgrounds, shapes, sizes, colors, all those types of things. Like most people don't have that experience, right? And every athlete does, unless you're in a solo sport. There's not many of them. So the possession of skills that athletes have is very sought after and something that should be talked more about, right? It needs to be educated at a younger age of like, hey, this is gonna end at some point, right? Like just let's get the elephant out of the room. You can't play baseball until you're 90 years old. Some people try, right? And some ways that people stay involved is through coaching or lessons or whatever that might be, and that's great. But a lot of times there's a disconnect in, well, once I'm done with this, I'm not good at anything else, and nor can I be good at anything else. And my perspective is like, no, your skill set that got you to where you got in that sport perfectly translates into something else. You just need to help understanding what that could be and a support system around you. And I'm super passionate about that, and happy to dive into any of that stuff at any time with you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think you touched on a couple things that I'd like to bring to light. So, dealing with failures. I mean, that's a hard thing in anything in life. Like getting
Yeah.
denied by a girl, getting told you're losing your job. Getting fired. Like the reality is you're never going to get 100% acceptance. So the moment you're able to handle failure, I think you're able to move on. And that kind of brings me to my next question. Like during that year and a half you were away from baseball, like did you ever think your career was over? Did you know you would get a chance to come back? Or was it like you didn't even know really?
I didn't know. I don't think I ever chalked it up as like I'm done, but it was heading in that direction because, when I had transferred to a new school in South Carolina, I spent all of like 3 weeks there. And at that point, you signed your release paperwork. I was off scholarship, so I was technically not a part of Texas or the baseball team. So when I decided to go back to school there, I wasn't like allowed, and there were NCAA rules against playing that season. So I knew when I was going back that year, I wasn't able to play. That was in the back of my head. And that was a very hard pill to swallow. But I also knew uh, that my time that I spent at USC Aiken, I had, experienced anxiety for the first time. I'd experienced sleepless nights and things that I had never really understood at a deep level. And it was really, really hard for me to wrap my head around that. But something that I've credited to my story and I guess myself through education, a very strong support system of friends, family, faith being a huge part of that for me, and being able to have an outlet through prayer and clarity. Like, I got out of there because I knew if I could fast forward how I feel right now in 3, 4 months, like I don't love it here enough to just go through that.
Yeah.
It's that bad. I never wanted to leave Texas in the first place. So let me just like right the ship. I'll go back and I'll figure out who I am away from baseball there, because at least that's a place where I know my heart is at. So that was the first big decision that I ever made that I was very proud of. And I don't even want to know what my life would look like right now had I not made that decision. But it was really hard, man. Like I didn't know what to do that year. I had no clue. I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor of my friend's house for an entire semester. And it was really weird watching him wake up for workouts and practices and stuff and being completely isolated from that. I did everything I could to stay busy, right? I leaned into the church that we had there and tried to catch a word on a Sunday and figure out how I can sort of go forward, right? And get some clarity. But I continued to work out. I continued to not be okay with the thought of baseball being done, because I was like, well, I know I can't play this year, but what am I going to do with my time? The hardest part was the following year, and I remember vividly the moment where I went back out for the team. We had a new coach. He said, "Yeah, you can try out. I can't guarantee anything." And I did okay, as okay as you can do for taking a year off. And he sat me down in his office and said, "Hey, we don't have any room for you. I'm sorry. We love you, man, but it's not gonna work out this year." And at that point, I remember going home and taking a shower for like 15 minutes, which is way off brand for me. And that's when it hit me of like, okay, I actually might be done playing baseball. Like, yes, I spent the whole last year trying to figure out who I am away from baseball, but that was with the mindset of surely I'll play again, right? Like, surely something will happen. And then I had to spend an entire another year of like seesawing. Am I going to play? Am I not? What would that look like? Maybe I should just get a job. I got to graduate. And it's a lot. It's a lot for a 21, 22-year-old at the time to navigate. especially when you want, you know, you have big aspirations for yourself. And you don't, frankly, you don't want to let people down. There's a lot of people that have been rooting for me for a very long time. And to be able to have to say like, it just ended and I don't really know what happened was something that I really, really struggle with. So I think just like getting the opportunity to get back on the field and taking the initiative to an uncomfortable initiative and actions toward like what I hoped could be an outcome that would be a good one for me to keep playing. It ended up working out. And, that's one thing that I will say is if you don't know what to do, thinking about it doesn't help, right? Reach out to people. There's someone who has been there, likely, and if they haven't, they can at least hear you out. It's always better to talk to someone, to talk to friends, family, whoever you trust. If you don't trust anyone, you can talk to me, right? I'm happy to have any conversation about anything at all. But thinking about it and sitting and doing nothing, I can guarantee that nothing changes in that state.
Yeah, and I think you nailed a couple things right on the head. Like A, if you continue to think about something, it's going to eat you alive. But B, I think you put plan to action, right? They call
Yep.
put your pain to purpose. And I think you did that wonderfully because you didn't really ever give up. You knew the thought was potentially dying, but you always kept your nose on the grindstone and kept working. Like who, obviously, other than your parents and your friends, like and obviously you're big in faith. Like what was your biggest driving factor to be like, I know I still can do this and not gonna give up on myself? Like, was there one person? Was it a combination of people? Like, who was really like your biggest cheerleader that was like, Andy, like you can do this? Was it maybe yourself?
Yeah, I would say that all those people you mentioned, family, friends, coaches, they all have always believed in me. So no one was ever telling me that I couldn't do it, right? Like, yes, I struggled my freshman year. Yes, I had a really weird, like, sophomore year where I didn't really do much, which ended in transferring and then getting back on the field. So I felt like the biggest driving force was internally, right? Like, if I fast forward 20 years from now, I don't want to wake up with regrets of like what could have been in this story because I have control over some little pieces. Now, to be clear, there's a lot in life that is completely out of your control, right? Like I couldn't control the fact that Texas hired a new coach and he brought in a lot of his own guys. Like I get that. So you have to look at things pragmatically and say, all right, is this in my control or out of my control? So once I kind of took inventory of that, the only option was like, I'm going to exhaust whatever I can here so that at least I don't have regrets. And the biggest thing was when I decided to go play summer baseball that second year that I hadn't played, right? I did not have to do that. A lot of people thought that was crazy, but most people who maybe thought it was crazy for like a split second were like, oh, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. If you want to keep playing, what better way to do it than keep playing, right? So it was a test for me. And I remember going into that summer saying, I have no godly idea how this is going to go. I could suck. I could not be the player that I thought I was. And I don't know. The only way to find out is to find out because what's not going to work is not sleeping at night, wondering like, man, you had so much ability, you had so much going, and you didn't try, and that's never going to be my story. So I know it's easier said than done. But in that moment, I had a coach that had taken a chance on me for like a 3-week contract in the summer baseball league in Baltimore, knowing that I hadn't played. What coach would do that? Why would he do that? I don't know, but he did. And I'm so glad he did because I ended up playing the whole summer there and had good stats to show. And that, transferred into a really successful fall and spring season as a senior with the new coach. And the rest is history. But like the point of emphasis is that baseball, I think my story is a unique one where I was exposed to what my life looked like away from baseball at a time where I was not expecting it. I was not injured. There was not a real reason why I wasn't playing except for I couldn't, which was very, very challenging. But I would say like the support system I had, faith, the belief in myself, right? And this goes for anything. This is not just baseball. And taking very, very strong action toward what you believe, that's the only reason why I was able to get to where I was.
Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. And I think the coolest part about your story, like I always knew you shortstop, like number two batter in the lineup. Like that was you through and through. And then when I heard you were pitching and then playing right field, playing first base, like I was like,
Yeah.
all right, that's really cool. And when I talked to you, you're like, yeah, I'm basically a utility player, one of only utility players in the whole country. Like they don't have many on the roster like utility players. How cool was that? And also, how were you able to like retrain yourself to be like, look, maybe I can be other things? Like, and was that hard for you to realize?
Yeah, that was an interesting one. I mean, I think the pitching thing came about because I just naturally could always throw a ball like with some sort of velocity and pretty accurately, right? So when I wasn't sure who I was as a player, because my freshman year I couldn't hit. My sophomore year I didn't hit at all. I didn't have one at bat. And I pitched a little bit in like a mop-up role, which was basically we're up or down by 10 runs. So it was just like get a guy out there and eat up some innings. So coming back, as you can imagine, I had no clue what player I was and how I was going to be valuable to that team. And the two-way thing was actually introduced by my head coach, David Pierce. And he was like, I'm a fan of two ways. If you can do it, we should try it because it's very valuable. If you have someone who can eat up innings in the back end of the bullpen and also potentially help you produce runs and on offense, like, why not? And I was all on board. And so we kind of just like literally, we figured out I was in a room with my pitching coach and I said, if I'm going to pitch, I'm not going to be the pitcher that I was my sophomore year, which was basically throwing batting practice. I'm going to be, I'm going to figure out a delivery and pitches and help me shape that. That would be the last type of pitcher that I would want to face as a right-handed hitter. So I created that a very fast motion, a more three-quarters delivery, kind of funky, faster, and throwing sinker balls. All of those things are a nightmare for right-handed hitters. So I was like, I'm just gonna do that. And we worked on it for a while. And again, when you talk about like the growth of mentality and the peace that I had in my mind of I never thought I'd play this game again, and here I am figuring out what kind of pitch I'm gonna throw while I'm also taking batting practice later. Like it was hard to sit in that moment and realize where I had been and came from. But I just credit the coach's ability to like see an opportunity in me. And it ended up, I was the first, I think, um, ever Toronto Blue Jay draft pick as a two-way. So it's like, none of this is all written script from above from the time I was born, right? But it's really, really cool to look back and see all the small decisions that I made or that someone else made, the people that I met along the way, and you connect the dots, right? I challenge anyone to do that. Just look back at where your life is right now, connect some of those pieces. Like one, if you don't have a strong faith, it'll get a little stronger. And two, it's really promising to know that like you don't have to have everything in control because things are going to happen as they should.
Yeah. And I think that is, again, one of the coolest stories. And that's why I wanted to talk with you because you went from nationally recognized Team USA, full scholarship to Texas, getting off the team, then earning your way back after not just a season off, almost 2 seasons off, then coming back and being arguably one of one players in the country. I mean, you did everything for Texas. I remember the game against West Virginia, you caught a diving out, and then like 2 innings later, you went into pitch. It was like the funniest game I'd ever seen a baseball. I mean, kids do that in Little League, right? They don't do that in college or the pros. So like, what was the most rewarding part of your story from the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, and then coming back and rewriting your ship? If you could pinpoint one of the most rewarding parts, what would you say it was?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think rewarding, like people think of, you know, we went to the College World Series, right? Like we did. I went to the College World Series my senior year. We won a Big 12 championship. Um, and there were some rewards that I won. But the things that I think that carry on to who I am today and how I operate are a lot of like the people that I met, the friendships, the lessons that I learned through the struggles. And I think being able to put yourself in a vulnerable position, look at things holistically from a 30,000 foot view. How bad is this? Is it in my head or is it in my real life? Right. And then putting a plan together, a real plan with people that you trust, because it doesn't happen through thought, it happens through action. I'm very, very, very proud of how I handled that situation. And I don't know what things would look like had I done anything differently. And thankfully, I don't need to think about that, but I think I carry that into who I am today and how I operate, how I look at situations, how I give advice to friends. And I don't have everything figured out. I have a lot of struggles that I deal with on a daily basis, right? I'm a human being. That's part of it. But I think not only playing baseball, which is has great relation to life, right? And failure and just learning a lot about yourself. The biggest reward has to be how I was able to handle adversity and bet on myself. That's I've seen play out after sports.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. I mean, I think your willingness to not quit inspired me as a friend watching from afar, seeing how you were able to come back to that mountaintop and not give up. So to the younger generation or someone who may be just struggling with life and work and the struggles that come with it, what would be your advice to them? Like, hey, it's gonna be all right. Like, I've been through some really low lows, questioning who I was as a person. What would be your advice to them to keep kicking on and moving on?
Yeah, it's a really hard topic, right? Because as human beings, like you're guaranteed struggle. Nobody has it perfect. Nobody has it easy. If you think they do, they don't. Um, so I would say one, I'm a big advocate for therapy in any type of way, whether that's working out, talking to friends, talking to professionals, right? You don't always need to be in the dumps to reach out for help. Sometimes it's good to get a kind of a gut check and make sure that you're properly equipping yourself with, a mindset and the tools to face those hard things that are coming because they're coming, right? So I would say like my biggest advice is don't be afraid to do that. I think that's an act of strength when society right now is saying that, oh, you're a man, like be a man, don't be soft. Why would you need therapy? Is it really that bad? And the truth is, maybe it is really that bad, right? It could be that bad. Maybe it's not. And maybe you don't ever want it to get that bad. So you're trying to get ahead of that. And I have a lot of respect and admiration for that. So I would say an encouragement to reach out and talk to people about anything, right? It starts with action. Um, yeah, I mean, what was the second part of that question again?
Yeah, what would be your advice to someone who's just
Yeah,
struggling, doesn't know if they can keep on, and what would be your advice for them to keep pushing on if they're in like a
yeah.
really low low?
So that would be my first point of recognizing where you're at, even if it's not a super low low. The lows come; they're gonna come. The other thing I would say is like if you, I've heard this from someone. If you have a breath, then you have a purpose, right? If you woke up today, you have a purpose. There's a reason why you're here. The miracle of being born, like there's statistics tied to it, but the chance of you being alive is very slim, right? It just is. And to continue to live a life, um, it gets hard, it gets better. It's a roller coaster. But like if you have breath, you have purpose. And I believe fully that even in the hard times, right, knowing that there's a path to a better version of you, there's a path to a better life, there's a path to feeling good. There's a lot of different avenues that you can take to get there. But it starts with you understanding that, man, I'm going through this hard time, but I'm not alone. There's a lot of other people that could have maybe gone through this before. Do I know any of those people? Maybe I can talk to them about it. Or in a different sense of it is like there's somebody else out there that you either know or have never met that can't wait to meet you because you have experiences and hardships that you've had and gone through and reached the other side and were introduced to a new and better version of yourself that they need to meet. They need to meet that person and that version of you to help them get through what's coming, right? Maybe they so I believe fully that if you're struggling, right, like take inventory of yourself, reach out to the people around you, but also consider those people that you have not met yet and how excited they're going to be to meet you on the other side of whatever that struggle is.
No, I love that. Someone who hasn't met you yet is going to love the version you are right now. I think that's so powerful. And that speaks to faith in who you are, and
Yeah.
loving yourself, because even when you're at your worst, you truly need to love yourself. So, in closing, my last question to you is, Andy, if you could give someone one word or one quick sentence of wisdom to get through, what's been a tough year, with, everything that's going on, what would be that? Because someone might be hearing this right now that really could use this one sentence or even a word for them to keep going.
Yeah. I mean, the first word that come, if it's one word, I think it's love. Um, and I'm not talking like gushy heart love. I'm talking love and understanding that you are loved. Somebody loves you. And if you don't believe that, God loves you, right? A big, big game changer. Whether it's how you view yourself, how you view your situation, um, is the ability to love yourself and understand that you're not perfect and you're never going to be perfect. Um, and in order to receive love and be able to receive love, that it starts with being able to love yourself. And I think that if I could add another word to that, it would be perspective. Like, think about your situation. Um, Are you in a place that you once wished you were in, right? How bad is it? If it's really bad, talk to someone, right? Get someone else's perspective. It'll shift yours. And if you wake up with an appreciation for the breath in your lungs and find two things that you can be grateful for that day, promise you your perspective over time will slowly change and you'll be able to feel a love for yourself, a love for those around you, and a new breath of life for the love that you have for your own life, right? So I think that on the spot, that's what I got, and I think that I work on that every day, and it's a challenge, but I try to do that for sure.
No, I think you're a walking testament of that, man. You're a great guy. You're a great friend. And I'm lucky to know you, and I appreciate you hopping on. And I'm sure we'll get a lot of good clicks from this one. And someone's gonna watch it who needs to watch it in the
I
time, and
hope so.
they're gonna really appreciate the words you gave them. That's gonna keep them going.
Yeah, and I just want to say I appreciate you putting this together because it's important. I'm probably not the last or the best guest that you'll have. And so I hope you continue to do this with a lot of different types of people and a lot of different types of perspectives, right? There's a message out there for everyone. Um, and I would just encourage anyone to reach out to me at any time, reach out to Andy Boone here at any time, because if we know you, we certainly care about you and love you. And if we don't, we can get there with you. So appreciate you, brother. Love you tons. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you, man. Love you, man. Talk to you soon. All right.
All right.
All right. God bless, brother. Appreciate